It's that time here in Spain to talk again to Chris McCann. It's been a long time. How are you doing, Chris?
I'm very well, thanks, Howard. Yes, it has seemed a while since we last spoke.
Yes, it's probably only a month, but time flies, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, especially as we get older.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah.
Anyway,
Even more.
yeah. Anyway, today and I are going to take a close look at UK inheritance tax and what you can do to avoid or reduce it for your family and heirs. Although UK nationals living in Spain are subject to the Spanish succession tax regime, most also remain liable to UK inheritance tax as well. So let's start with the very basics, Chris. What is UK inheritance tax? Can you give us a brief summary of what this tax is and who it affects?
Inheritance tax, or IHT for short, is a UK tax on the estate of somebody who has died. The estate can be liable to IHT if the deceased person is deemed to be a UK domicile at the time of death, and if so, the tax will be calculated based on the worldwide estate. The estate can also be liable to the tax even if the deceased person is not deemed to be a UK domicile, because assets situated in the UK are always liable to the tax.
What are the tax rates and allowances, and what happens with spouses and civil partners?
The standard inheritance tax nil rate band is £325,000, and any unused amount on first death can be transferred to your spouse or civil partner, potentially giving your joint estate an allowance of up to £650,000 on second death. In addition, the residential nil rate band can provide an extra £175,000 allowance for a property that is or has been your main home. It should be noted that the residential nil rate band is available only if the property passes directly to your children or grandchildren, so you need to be careful when it comes to the use of trusts. The threshold is also reduced for estates valued over £2 million, tapering down to zero for estates valued over £2.35 million. After the deduction of allowances, the tax rate is a flat 40%, reducing to 36% if at least 10% of the estate is left to charity. Finally, transfers to spouses and civil partners are exempt from UK IHT, provided that you're both UK domiciled. If one of you is a non-UK domicile, their exemption is limited to the nil rate band.
Has the newer residential nil tax rate band helped families avoid this tax?
Well, obviously it has helped, but it hasn't stopped an ever-growing proportion of estates becoming liable to pay UK IHT, primarily due to a pincer movement, really, of recent rises in property prices and frozen inheritance tax thresholds.
How do you work out what your IHT liability will be? What assets are included? And how does HMRC know what you have?
It's relatively simple. To determine if you have a potential IHT liability, you need to value your estate. And when valuing your estate, you need to complete three main tasks. Firstly, you need to identify your assets and debts. Assets include things like bank accounts, savings, pensions, as well as property, household goods, and personal items. Debts include things like utility bills, mortgages, money owed on credit cards. They would also include funeral expenses. So once you've identified the assets and debts, you then need to estimate their total value. And finally, you can deduct your tax-free threshold to arrive at the value of the estate, which is taxable. Once you have your taxable estate, you simply need to apply the 40% tax rate. As regards how HMRC know what you have, there are many ways for them to check, some high-tech and some very traditional. For example, in the summer of 2010, HMRC launched their powerful computer system, Connect, which sifts vast quantities of information to detect otherwise invisible networks of relationships, meaning that HMRC can pretty much already put together a detailed picture of most taxpayers.
So, can people take steps to reduce this tax liability for their heirs?
There are tax planning arrangements available to help reduce your liabilities to IHT. Some are simple and some are complex. So if listeners would like to learn more, I would suggest contacting their local Blevins Ranks partner. They will be able to help establish your current domicile status, how inheritance tax interacts with Spanish succession tax, and also what steps you can take to minimise these unnecessary taxes for your heirs. As always, listeners can visit our website, blevinsranks.com, where they can find the contact details of all our local partners. Or if they prefer, they can also complete a contact form on our website, and a local Blevins Ranks partner will be in touch as soon as possible to arrange the most appropriate next step.
Many thanks, Chris. Always a pleasure. We'll talk again next week.
I look forward to it, Howard.